Wings clinch a spot in the playoffs, but their work isn't done just yet because now they need to worry about their seeding.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm Clea Butler, the sideline reporter for the Chicago Sky, and joined with me is my co-host, Sophia Jones, the radio analyst for the Portland Fire. Jumping into what we are here to discuss today, we got to talk about Angel Reese at some point today because she is continuing to set the mark higher and higher for herself. Obviously, such a fantastic fit for the Atlanta Dream, and then on top of it, breaking a record for the WNBA in terms of a single game rebounding night. We also have Unrivaled, who is expanding their horizons, and a lot more information that will be coming up for them this month. But we first have to start with the Dallas Wings, and I said it the other day, guys, and I know Sophia had the podcast the day after me, so I was just in my podcast, I was like, okay, I think Dallas is going to get it, but at the same time, like, Sophia's going to be able to vouch for Portland on her side, so, like, I totally get it. However, they were able to clinch the final spot in their win against Portland, 96-78. But this is going to be a big factor of they made it, but now they got to stay there. But it's not just staying there. They have to be able to move up in the ranks a little bit because as of right now, where they are in 8th place, they would have to play the Lynx to start off their playoff series. Is that a team that you want to have to face immediately? Absolutely not. And they have not beat the Lynx at all this season. Then you say you move up one more. Then you have to play the Valkyries, another team that you still haven't beat this season. As of right now, their best bet is trying to move up as high as possible in order to play the Aces, a team that out of all of the top teams, even if you go down to number 4 in the Atlanta Dream, that's the best team that they've played their best against the Aces this year.
Exactly. And the Wings are 0-4 against the Minnesota Lynx this season. They're 0-3 against the Golden State Valkyries, but they're 2-1 against the Las Vegas Aces and only half a game out of the 6th spot. It could definitely happen. I mean, from the 1 seed, it looks like it's going to be solidified as Minnesota. But for the Golden State Valkyries and Las Vegas Aces, there could be, or pretty much 2 through 5, they're only separated by 2 games. So there's some room for movement there. And then 6 through 8, they're only separated by half a game. So a lot of movement there as well. But Dallas, they'll definitely want to put in the work. And when I was watching, or when I was calling the game yesterday for the Wings against the Fire, they just really looked dialed in. I mean, mentally on the court, they were just moving on a string offensively and defensively. And I think it was that mindset that they were going to win this game so they can clinch the playoffs and take care of business. That can still help them for the rest of this season because post All-Star break, we saw them stumble a little bit. They were on a losing streak. I believe at one point they were like 2-7 in their last couple of games, but they flipped around now on a 3-game win streak. So still a lot of room to increase their stocks for these playoff seedings.
For sure. And a big part of it, and something that Paige Becker has mentioned after the game as well, and then being able to obviously get that 8th spot is just being able to play for each other and play behind each other. And a lot of that has come down to some of the things that we have heard, obviously, from head coach Jose Fernandez, too, in terms of them playing, unselfishly, paying for each other. Some of those speeches, let's say, that we've heard him say this season. But a part of what Paige said was just watching film and our connectivity on defense and how we're scrambling for each other, having conversations. And I think the big part here is holding each other accountable, really just embracing the struggle, not hiding from it, and just fighting through it together. I think that's a big part of, where they are right now. In terms of just being able to have that fight for each other.
Exactly. And They looked really, really strong against the Fire last night. I mean, it was by the third quarter of the game, it really felt like the Wings were in control of everything. And they did it because, again, the first half, they were powered by Jess Shepard and Awak Queer. And I think Awak Queer is really going to be an X factor. I'll get a little bit more into that in a bit, but they're powered by them in the first half. Second half, it was Paige and Enrique, and just having that balance on both ends again really helped to propel them in that game and is going to continue to help propel them for the rest of this season. But I mentioned a walk queer, and with AZ Fudd going out for the rest of the season, you were wondering where that extra boost was going to come from on the Dallas Wings. And Queer has done a fantastic job of filling some of that void. She's knocking down her three-pointers, which of course, when you're losing AZ, that's a major thing that you're losing. And excuse me, you're also gaining a really outstanding defender in Queer versus the Indiana Fever 2 games ago. She had 7 blocks. Yesterday against the Fire, she had 5 blocks. She is just like the ultimate. She has just blossomed as this insane rim protector, and she completely changes the way that teams enter the paint, whether it's post entry or if it's just dribble penetration. They know that nothing easy is going to come in there, and sometimes they don't even want to go in there because they know Kawir is right in the middle. And I think she's going to continue being a really, really big piece for the Wings moving forward.
Yeah, that's such a big aspect too, because this is only something that could have come with her as time progressed, though, because obviously still just very green when it comes to a lot of things at the beginning of the season. But I feel like she's kind of blossomed into, as you mentioned, this rim protector at the perfect time. Obviously, kind of coming in very clutch down the stretch for Dallas as they were trying to just make that 8th spot. But now, on top of it, now you have teams that have maybe had to go against Queer at this point, and now they can kind of, like you said, now they're going to have to kind of second guess to an extent how they're going to handle trying to get into the paint, and having these sort of confidence boost games for her too, and then them on top of it being able to make the playoffs. She's going to be insane. I hope so. I think she's going to be insane going into these playoff series now, because now I feel like this is kind of a benefit for Dallas in terms of how they started this season and kind of having high expectations in general around them. Obviously, you have your 2 number 1 picks back-to-back years. You have your little mini UConn team in the building. And then on top of it, you started off the season pretty strong, then to go on that stretch of games where they're obviously not performing. I think this is almost a good thing for this Dallas team to come in with a bit of a chip on their shoulders. On top of it, you lose AZ Fudd during the season too. I think they come in with a chip on their shoulder to really fight for what they felt like they should have kind of accomplished no matter what, but it was almost in a spot where they wouldn't have made the playoffs this year.
Exactly. And looking at who's on the Dallas Wings and like who some of the biggest playmakers are, they are relatively unexperienced when it comes to winning championships in the WNBA, I guess I'll say. So for Paige, Enrique, Jess Shepard, and Alana Smith last season with the Minnesota Lynx, you could even look at even a player like Awak Weir. These are all just really high motor players that are going to come in extra motivated because of that potential chip on their shoulder. And I think when you were thinking about the Dallas Wings and looking at where they were ranked the majority of the season, honestly, up until that post All-Star stretch where they stumbled, they were right cemented in the middle, still considered one of the top teams and in that upper echelon of the standings. And with this slippage, I think they're still going to want to prove that they belong. That is a fluke. They're not an 8th seed. They actually should be higher, but it's going to take a lot of some convincing to themselves at the same time, because they definitely don't want to have to face the Lynx or Valkyries in a first round matchup, because just for the season series, that is not boded well for them.
100%. We will see what is to come for the Dallas Wings. And I know they're going to have to be rallying behind Paige Beckers no matter what, because Paige is going to put the team on her shoulders. But stick with us, because Unrivaled is deciding to expand, and it's coming up a lot quicker than you may think. Support for today's episode comes from Indeed sponsored jobs. When workplace chaos hits and you need the right hire, Indeed sponsored jobs helps connect employers with candidates who match specific needs like skills, certifications, and location. So less time gets spent searching and more time gets spent finding the right fit. People are finding quality hires on Indeed right now. And the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. Usually the biggest difference when you're looking for somebody to hire isn't someone that's doing more work. It's having somebody who actually knows what needs to happen and helps everything run smoother, because you already have a lot on your plate. So you're looking for somebody who's not just going to take up a lot of work per se, but is going to do it efficiently and be able to be in a position to help you as much as possible. So spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, but more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. All right, Unrivaled is starting to expand its league, and this is exciting because we keep seeing Unrivaled really just outdoing their numbers. Obviously, I think there's been a big benefit to having these tours and having record crowds for them too. Then you have, like a Marina Mabry, who is putting on an absolute show for them on top of it, getting people really involved in the mix and not everything just being in Miami. But next season, Unrivaled will play in 4 times as many of their road venues. So kind of what we saw this season. And the season is set to tip off in January. Sophia, what excites you most as somebody, who's also seen Unrivaled firsthand in Miami? What excites you about them being able to kind of be on a little bit more of a tour?
Just expanding Unrivaled's audience, and everyone who has watched Unrivaled either on TV or in person, they become such a big fan. And I would say that in person, it's even better because you really get a better sense of the speed and physicality at which these players play with. And I think for them to expand how more road venues introduce the Unrivaled scene to multiple audiences, maybe even some cities that don't even have WNBA, so are not used to seeing these professional women's basketball players, it's going to be really fun. And especially for them to open on the road and hold playoff games on the road in bigger venues, that is just going to be so key. And I think the bigger venues is another thing as well, because bigger venues equals putting more people in seats and more money into the pockets of not only the owners, but the players, because it is an equity league. So everything is just really exciting about how Unrivaled is continuing to grow and expand. And they reported that league revenue last year was estimated at $45 million in year 2, up from $27 million in Unrivaled's inaugural league. So if they're going to continue on this upward trajectory for Unrivaled, then this expanding the road stop is really going to help.
And I love just like how on top of it Unrivaled is. And we have to, give a shout out to Nafisa Collier's husband, obviously, who's always holding it down while she's in season. Obviously, she's doing a lot of this work. But while she's in season, he is out there holding it down always and continue to be like, hey, we can do whatever with this league. But I think that's the greatest part of seeing this. We saw them go to Philly last year, which was great. You saw them go to Brooklyn, which also did incredibly well. I do kind of feel like maybe they'll be on a trend of going towards these larger cities at the moment, while they are still kind of, building themselves up, even though this seems like a league that's honestly been cemented a little bit longer than it really has, just kind of given like how successful it has been from the start. I'm definitely somebody who would love to see them be in Chicago, but I guess I'm not in Chicago anymore. So maybe if they want to take a little road trip down to New Orleans, that would be really cool too. That would be fun. but just continuing to really just push the envelope. I mean, when you have literally the best of the best from the league and players that you have looked forward to seeing, all season long, just being able to be in a format like this. And I think it is really important for them to not just be in Miami. And I'm really glad that they decided to utilize this and now wanting to have even more road games because it can be difficult because I know Miami is a smaller venue as well. You can't fit as many people in there. So like you said it perfectly, you have the ability to reach a wider audience and people want to go see this live. Yeah, it's great to watch, on TV, but there's nothing like seeing some of these games in person. And this definitely opens up opportunities for that.
100%. And I think another thing that makes Unrivaled just so valuable is you constantly see players take leaps in their WNBA season after participating in Unrivaled. So it's really helping to springboard a lot of these players' careers. I look specifically at someone like Shakira Austin, who has been killing it in Unrivaled and now this season in the WNBA. Really feel like she's putting the league on notice. And I think about Aaliyah Boston too, and her ability to become more of a face-up, step out to the perimeter player after being in Unrivaled. And it's just getting a lot of players overall more used to playing that fast, up-tempo style that more audiences gravitate towards anyway. And it was also reported that the 2026 season will be Unrivaled's last season at Sephora Arena in Miami, Florida. So when they're having these different tour stops, it's also going to be a little bit of a tryout for the city, I would imagine, because if your city decides to show up and show out, then it'll make Mr. Nafisa Collier a bit more eager to then choose that location as maybe the next landing spot for Unrivaled. But I think for an audience like Miami, and like you said, even for a city like New Orleans, for a lot of these fan bases that really love women's basketball, that pour into it a lot, it'll be great for them to see professionals on another stage. I mean, even looking at a lot of the cities in the SEC that are smaller towns. So New Orleans, Baton Rouge, a little bit with LSU, Columbus, South Carolina, with University of South Carolina. They consistently sell out their women's basketball games, but they don't have as much access to seeing professional women's basketball. So I think Unrivaled is doing a really great thing of being the league for the people, quite frankly.
I agree. And listen, there's people that absolutely love women's basketball down here. Obviously, like you mentioned, Baton Rouge is very close. We know the support LSU has for their women's basketball team, and that does translate over into New Orleans. Every single one of my coworkers has texted me about how the Sky season is going at some point and saying that they watched the game. So I think, if you need me to help handle creating the team down here, I got you. I'm gonna rally up the troops. I'm always going to be down somewhere supporting women's basketball. But another big part of this, as you mentioned, just kind of the players that you see on the team. Another player I would mention to the list that you mentioned is Ray Burrell, who has really kind of openly spoken about how beneficial, alongside other players, but how beneficial Unrivaled has been to her and the trajectory that she's had. Have the Sparks had a great season? Obviously, no, but single-handedly has she showed great improvements and had one of her better seasons so far? Absolutely. And she's kind of continuing to skyrocket. We saw like what she was able to do in some one-on-ones too in Unrivaled. Like you see her game continuing to grow. And when we're taking a look at the league, more than 75% of the players who participated in Unrivaled last season are signed to multi-year deals, which I think is a really cool aspect of this too. So there will be plenty that return to year 3, and Unrivaled has signed 95% of its roster for 2027. So there will be more announcements coming out this month and as we continue, because this is already something that's starting in January, which seems kind of so far behind, but really this year is already almost wrapped up. So, you have the WNBA season, we get through playoffs, you get to see a championship, and then right after that, you got to be prepared for Unrivaled. And they might be coming to your city. I mean, there's nothing cooler than that, truly. Taking a look into our next segment, we're going to talk about Angel Reese and just how dominant she continues to be. A big one for her is obviously she is breaking records, but she's also named the WNBA Eastern Conference Player of the Week. Atlanta had 3 straight road wins. And this is the first weekly award for Angel with the Dream and the third of her WNBA career. Throughout this week, she's averaged 24 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals. They had wins over Vegas, the Sparks, and Phoenix. She shot 67% from the field and recorded a double-double in all 3 of those games. And then, of course, she's been performing really well against the Sparks in particular. She was 9-9 from the field in their first game against the Sparks, and then she set a single-game record in rebounding against the Sparks. In their most recent games. So she's been on it with LA. Let's just say that.
She has, and I think to possess that kind of duality is so important for players because with that offense that you see, I mean, 9-9 from the field, there were 2 3-pointers in there as well. So she's not doing it just at the rim is extremely impressive. But to also have a double-double in that game and then turn around and play LA again and set that 26 rebound record, it's just so impressive. And for someone that already has pretty much a scouting report set against her, when you think about her ability inside and around the rim, you would think that more opponents maybe want to try boxing her out a bit more. But Angel's motor just truly carries her past so many of these defenders. And when it's a matter of who wants the ball more, there's not many people, if at all, in the league that consistently, when the ball is coming off the rim, have more of a will to go get it than Angel Reese. And I think that is just one of the biggest assets of her game more than anything. I mean, it's not like those 26 rebounds just all fell right into her lap. No, she had to go out and get a lot of those.
I think another thing that's standing out to me with Angel too, I mean, obviously, besides the rebounds, and we know how great of a rebounder she is. She had those 26 again on Monday. And she also broke Asia Wilson's single season rebounding record. And now she leads the league with 27 double-doubles on the season. But I think what stands out to me, again, outside of that, is just the fact that knowing in terms of, her being in Chicago and just having those conversations with her in terms of what she wanted to work on, seeing that like really come into fruition is really cool. I think there's nothing more rewarding than hearing a player say like, these are the things that they're working on. These are the things that they want to execute during games, and then seeing them do that. The fact that Angel was able to go 9-9 from the field, but that included 2 3-pointers for somebody that's obviously her position and size and somebody that you don't see at the perimeter all too often. That's something that we've seen her work on a lot in the offseason. So it is really cool to see that happen for her and have a game where she goes perfect. We had a Camila Cardoso that did that with Chicago, and not discrediting what she did at all because Camila was on it that day. But, she's perfect around the rim, mid-range sort of thing, but seeing a player that was alongside her like an Angel that isn't maybe necessarily as comfortable in a role like that, but now finding that confidence and stability to at least just shoot it. If it's open, shoot it. And she did just that. Then she banged 2 of them. And even just her ability to get downhill more often. I mean, she has, again, that motor. She has the size. She has the strength. And that was something that we saw her like expand a little bit out for Chicago in her last season. You were able to see her be a little bit more comfortable, like handling the ball, getting downhill, not only just having like post-ups, whatever the case may be, but you're seeing her basically bring it coast to coast sometimes. But I think a lot of that has had to do with maybe just some of the confidence that she's had around her in Atlanta too. Obviously, every time you hear Alicia Gray speak about Angel, she's like giggling and kicking her feet. Like she has some of her besties on this team right now. Now she's going to go with Ryan Howard and represent obviously Team USA for the World Cup. But there's just a lot of exciting things to see Angel become the player that she consistently says she is going to be, and just be that.
100%. And I think, again, you can almost even look at some of the development that she was able to do in Unrivaled with becoming more comfortable handling the ball in the open space and not necessarily needing to be set up by your teammates to score, but creating your looks for yourself. And that's another thing that just really translated to her work so far in the WNBA. I think, like you said, her ability to just put the ball on the floor has been something that has really opened up her game. And if she can start knocking down those 3-pointers consistently, it's going to be another extremely scary thing for the entire league. But for her to continue to accompany that high motor and really start matching the skill to that, it's just the perfect combination for a player that you want to see. And I think I would, like you kind of alluded to as well, I would give a lot of credit to the new situation that she is in with her teammates that, can uh, feed her the ball a lot of the time, can make shots, so she's getting a lot of those assists as well, and just be floor spacers for her to operate and get to the paint and get downhill. And same thing even to head coach Carl Smesco and his offense and what he's been able to create and help bring out the best of Angel Reese and what we've seen flashes of in the past. Now it's really starting to become more consistent. And I think with those games against the Sparks where you saw her get it done, where she couldn't miss anything, and then for the second game, when anyone did miss, she was always getting it in turn. And that's exactly how the game went.
And another thing that I love about Angel is she's going to figure out how to impact the game no matter what. Because even, again, in both these games against the Sparks, she said, last time I was here, I didn't miss any shots. Tonight, I couldn't hit anything. So I knew I was going to have to get going on the rebounding side. She said, I just want to be consistent for my team, offensively, defensively, whatever it takes to win. And I think just first being able to acknowledge that on her own, where she's just like, yeah, I couldn't make a shot today. Last time I was here, I was cold. Now I can't make anything. The fact that she's like, okay, I think it's just like the mental maturity that you keep seeing from her too is just a player who's still very early on into her WNBA career, being able to make that mental shift of like, okay, well, I'm not making shots. I'm not going to let this tear me down. I still need to impact and help my team win. How do I do that? Well, now I'm going to go set the WNBA record in the most rebounds in a single game.
100%. And there's so much value to a player that you know what you're going to get from them night in and night out. And I think for Angel Reese, it's really her effort and statistically those rebounds. You know you're going to get that. And if you can get those points on the side, that's outstanding as well. But to just always have that effort consistently out of her and not have to coach that part is just what makes her such a fantastic player.
Well, we love to see the Barbie keep getting it done. I'm like in her neck of the woods now, considering LSU stuff. So maybe she can sprinkle some Barbie dust onto me too. But as always, thank you so much for watching Locked On Women's Basketball. We will be back with you all again tomorrow.